Hello and welcome to my special education interview. Rich Kolka, EDL 853VB, take number 2. The 3 participants interviewed for this assignment was an administrator who currently holds the title of curriculum director, who has 10 years of experience as an administrator and has 5 years of experience as a classroom teacher. Before that, they were math certified middle school teacher. A special education teacher who has 5 years of experience, 1 in this state and 4 in other states. That was an interesting perspective. And the third person was a paraprofessional with 16 years of experience, all in the same school district. Again, here's a recap of the participants. You have the administrator over here, the special education teacher, the paraprofessional, and myself, who's compiling the information from the interview, Rich Kolka, who is a teacher of 17 years of experience, 2 different school districts, teaching multiple levels of biology. When the participants were asked about the child fine procedures, the answers were somewhat similar. The administrator focused more on early intervention, special services, and how that works. And I thought that was interesting with at-home interviews and observations. And I can actually remember going through that with my own son, so I can kind of relate to that. 2 main models were used they spoke about, which was the discrepancy model and the RTI model, or the RTI model. The special education teacher referred to cognitive test scores, including standardized tests in correlation to their classroom, to the classroom grades and how they're performing. And the paraprofessional felt that they weren't really involved in finding students with needs. The students simply came to them when they were ready to have service. The 2 models as explained by the administrator, one was the discrepancy model and it was the RTI model. I found them both pretty interesting, although I knew a lot of the information already from the discrepancy model. The RTI model, I didn't quite know that acronym, but now I'm pretty versed in it. As far as the 2 models goes, it's these 2 models and not these 2 models down here in the corner. When the participants were asked about their biggest challenges involving special education in the current classroom, the administration was very particular as far as the cost. The cost for out-of-district placement is astonishing, and I was shown some figures about how much money the state spends on special education. It is absolutely unbelievable. I get it's necessary, but that is a crazy amount of money. The special education teacher was adamant on constant paperwork, constant IEPs, and rewriting of the IEPs, and trying to get parents' input, and then some don't show up, and then they have to rewrite the rewrites, so it was a lot of paperwork and a lot of time wasted in that aspect. Paraprofessionals, the students not respecting them as professionals was their biggest complaint. They felt like the students didn't view them as someone who knew anything about the subject matter, and knowing some of these professionals, this one actually would bring it on herself, but many others are a lot different. The most rewarding parts of their job, administration-wise, was having the students meet their goals and seeing that data and information on paper. They thought that was pretty satisfying. The special education teacher thought that seeing students make strides with changes they have made in the IEP to actually help students, which is what they got into the business for the first place, was really satisfying to them. As far as the paraprofessionals go, getting through to the students when all else has failed. Sometimes the paraprofessionals are their last hope or their last resort for something to click for them in certain subject matters. As far as supervision would go, the administrator made sure to preface by saying, pay close attention to the authoring of IEPs. That's what gets their district in trouble the most, was poor writing and poor planning or poor goals of IEPs that simply aren't attainable or can be obtained by minimal effort. It has to be a nice balance in there. The special education teacher stated poorly written goals are difficult to monitor and achieve, so that this can get me, meaning him, and you, meaning me, the regular education teacher, in trouble throughout the years, and that's what a lot of lawsuits come from their end. The paraprofessionals say that being able to stay on top of their paraprofessional hours needed to stay current. In Pennsylvania, it is 20. Administrative people are always letting them know what their current access is for the hours. How to work effectively together was how I prefaced the question for the interviewees, and the administrator said constant communication makes things go smoother, and they went on to say constant communication between the teachers, the special education teachers, the regular education teachers, the administrative building staff, the administrative office across the street, you mean the main administrative building. The more communication, the better, and the easier it will flow. Special education teachers said that they have many students who require weekly updates to be sent home, so they have to be in constant communication with parents and they've got to document every change they make or every grade point that drops below certain averages on certain students. It's a lot of work. The paraprofessional, having clear instructions of what is expected for them in this role, was their reason to being, or the way that they could be the most effective for the classroom. Working with regular education teachers, the administrator spoke about constant input and assessment monitoring. Make sure those test scores are in. If they make something up, get them in quickly so the IEP teacher can be notified if there's a bad grade or a failing grade, so the parent can be notified. So the grade holdup on the teacher end could be a problem. The special education teacher, having regular education teachers attend IEP meetings and having regular education teachers give valuable input on reevaluations of IEPs, questionnaires, and input as far as how the class is going, is how the most effective use of time can be done for the regular education and special education teacher together. In the paraprofessionals, a good teacher can make it fun to go to class. That's what many of them stated. I interviewed 2 of them for that question, and they said the more fun the teacher is, or more active and energy-ridden the teacher is, the easier it is for them and their students to go through the class. As far as first-year administrator advice goes, the administrator made sure to point out to take your time and learn about your environment. Know where you are. Things are the way they are for a reason. You can't just come in and make 1,000 changes without knowing exactly what's happened before you or what the anticipated growth is going to be after you. So figure out the reason before you make sweeping changes. The different roles in schools are: the special education teacher is in the front lines. The special education teacher is the boundary between the regular education teacher and the parents who are irate, either by a test grade or the way something's not going correctly. So they're kind of a buffer. That happens to me a lot. I know that. The building principal needs to check in with the special education staff and director to make sure everyone is crossing their T's and dotting their I's, to make sure everything is legal, and at the same time being able to help in any manner that may need assistance. I believe that would be a difficult job. So after doing this presentation, a couple of things I came up with about being a future administrator in regards to special education is: you need to be knowledgeable about the special education law. If you don't know the law, you are going to be struggling. And the administrator interviewed agreed with that point. You've got to be organized, outgoing, able to cooperate and coordinate with others, and hopefully some experience dealing with special education students. I think being in the regular education classroom really helps in that aspect, because you get to see the regular ed kids, the special ed kids, the honors kids, so you have a large variety of students you've taught, so you can kind of reach out and branch out and be able to talk to and about all the parents of that aspect. After interviewing them all, my reflection is that the administrator made some really good points that I wouldn't think about. Budget was not in my mind about special ed. I don't ever see budget spreadsheets unless it's some of the athletic stuff, but I don't see special ed costs. I don't see how much it costs for an outside service to come in and and work with special education students. I don't see any of that. The special education teacher answered the points exactly as I thought they would. I've been working with special ed teachers for 17 years, so nothing that they really said kind of caught me off guard. The paraprofessional answered the interview with the least amount of energy and enthusiasm, but they had some valid points. They didn't really feel like talking to me, so I'm just glad they answered all the questions to begin with. My final points: I need to make sure that I understand special education law as much as possible before I enter the administrative side of it. You could easily slip up, make a mistake, but that's why you have other people with you. Other people have your back, other administrators and other special ed curriculum directors and that kind of stuff. So, thanks a lot for listening. Take care.